didn't intend to originally steal from the church when I went in there. I was just had like a negative thought to go in there, and then something ends up enticing me to go inside of this church, and the sliding door is open. I felt like I would just use the bathroom and get out, right? Just
Yeah.
homeless, right? And then I hadn't seen the money, and I figured that it would help me.
Mr. Evil has now joined us here in the courtroom. We are picking up with the file today. I'm going to note that the sentencing date was originally scheduled as November 4th. That's on CFJ 145, page 1. We need to amend that. Then we also need to go to CFJ 145, page 2, and add some additional jail credit. Take a look here. That this court issued a bench warrant on November 4th, which again is when we were here for our original sentence. The court at that time revoked bond, so it looks like we need to amend that credit. What I don't know is when was he arrested on that other file? I know that the complaint and affidavits was signed by Sergeant Vorpagel of the Missaukee County Sheriff Department on November 1st. Mr. Denham, do you know when he was taken into apprehension?
It was on the November 1st.
All right, so we're going to add a date range of November 1st of 2024 through yesterday's date of December 16th of 2024. That means we are going to have 46 days of credit. So we will, I'm sorry, of additional credit.
That's my understanding.
So that should give us a total of 98 days of credit. So we'll make that change on CFJ 145, page 2, and then carry that forward on 145, page 1. 1 second. Let's see if I had any other corrections before I turn it over to counsel. Mr. Denhoughton, I don't think I had any else yet. Do the people have any other amendments or corrections, sir?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. The people would respectfully request that we add a offense number 24 for the most recent case. We've alluded to it as far as the arrest date. That case was in 84 District Court, case number 24-853 SM2. The conviction occurred November 20th, and that was for misdemeanor B&E illegal entry.
Okay.
So we would just ask that that be added to the defendant's criminal history. Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any objection to that, Mr. Champion?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Blazak, again, did you get that? We're going to be adding into the CFJ 284 section a 24th entry for criminal history. And that was the offense date, I think was, well, I can tell from the other paperwork, looks like a November 1st. And it was resolved, and he was arrested on November 1st. Is that right, Mr. Denham?
November 1st, yes, Your Honor.
All right. And then the case was resolved on November, I think you said 24th?
It was entered on the 20th, Your Honor.
20th. And that was in the 84th District Court. And what was his sentence in that trial?
It was fines that cost $225, 16 days credit, Your Honor.
Okay, well, so that's going to impact our credit, because he couldn't get credit on this case if he was serving the other sentence. So we're going to have to go back and make an adjustment. So that means back on CFJ 145, page 2, where I had us earlier making a range of November 1st through December 16th, we actually need to end that from November 1st through November, did you say 20th?
November 24th was the day of the sentence, right? Yes.
So we are gonna have to reduce that, so that would have only been a total of 20 days. So earlier I said a credit of 46 days for that earlier range. Now we're gonna make that 20, which makes it a total of 72.
Your Honor, wouldn't that be 30 days? 46 less 60.
Well, no, so I thought he was sentenced on November 20th.
Yes, sir.
So that would be,
Okay.
so that means he was arrested on November 1st. He would get a total of 20 days for that period. He would not earn credit from November 20th through December yesterday, the 16th. All right, got that. Any other corrections, Mr. Denham?
Right.
All right, Mr. Champion, any other corrections or amendments, sir?
No, Your Honor.
Allocution, Mr. Champion.
Your Honor, going over the pre-sentence report with my client and seeing the two different recommendations in this case, my client broke down at that point in time. Acknowledges, and he has freely acknowledged that both this incident and the one that occurred most recently, the most recent conviction in district court, was a situation where he was actually coming to Misaki from Cadillac to conduct his pre-sentence report when it was raining, it was cold, he had nowhere to go, and he did not break, but he did enter into a residence that was vacant and took a shower and slept there. This case is very similar in that he was homeless, had nowhere to go, went into this church, and as the victim said, stole some money in the nicest way possible. He has acknowledged what he did in this case. He has struggled most of his life. When we look at his history, he's had a very difficult upbringing, to say the least. He has struggled as a result of that upbringing with a series of mental health issues, much like our last case. Additionally, he has self-medicated and used controlled substances in this matter. Mr. Evil is very apologetic about what occurred. He understands what he did was wrong. I would ask to sentence my client to the bottom of the guidelines of no more than 10 months with no probation in this case. Thank you.
Thank you. One moment. Mr. Denham.
Thank you, Your Honor. This incident occurred on April the 24th of this year. The defendant broke into the Faith Baptist Church. He took a wooden box that had been used for donations to transport via a bus to church. The amount taken is estimated to be $200. We would ask that amount for restitution. I don't believe there's any objection to that, so we would ask that that be included in the sentence. The plea, as the court is aware, was to be attempted B&E, a building with intent, and as far as the plea agreement, the habitual notice was dismissed. The defendant does have a very extensive prior criminal history, or quite extensive, 3 prior felonies. It was 13, now 14 misdemeanors, so a significant prior criminal history. And given the defendant's history, unfortunately, he's recognizing the fact that he's been struggling with some mental health issues. But he has, looking at the history, he's been somewhat of a nuisance to the community. There's a history of non-compliance with the judicial system. And I think I do have to make note the fact that what did the defendant do when just a few days he's about to be sentenced? Ultimately, that was adjourned, but he was about to be sentenced in this court on a B&E charge. He essentially does the exact same thing. Now, in that case, I'll give him credit. In that case, there wasn't an indication that he was attempting to steal something, but still breaks into another residence locally here. So the recommendation is for the top of the guidelines. I believe that given the history of the defendant's conduct on bond, the recent conviction, we believe that it's more than warranted, and we would respectfully request that the court follow that recommendation. Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. Right, I have just detected a small potential hiccup in our PSI. I didn't catch it. One of those things we just don't always see here. If we need, before I turn to Mr. Evil, if everyone could please look at their PSI and look at the top right-hand corner. The case number that I have on my docket says 24-3524. However, the file that I have and the docket lists today as 3521. Which is the correct number? I believe it's 21.
That's my understanding, Your Honor.
Mr. Denon,
I believe so.
Mr. Blazak?
I believe that's correct. Your Honor.
All right, well, good. So now we're going to go to CFJ 145, page 2. But please use your other finger to take a hold up CFJ 284, page 2. Recommendations are inconsistent. You'll see that on CFJ 145, page 2, it lists the case number of 3524, which we now determined to be incorrect. And we see that the recommendation is for a 12-month jail sentence. But then when I turn to CFJ 284, page 2, the recommendation changes. So I don't know what the Department of Corrections is recommending.
That's why I mentioned, Your Honor, there was competing.
Yeah, I got it. So that's what made me look at it. And then in the process of doing so, I caught the case numbers to be incorrect as well. So I just need this to be clear, because again, this is a piece of paper or report that follows the defendant. Which is the recommendation? Mr. Blazak?
The recommendation, Your Honor, is for the 12 months in the Saukey County Jail.
All right. So I believe you need to change CFJ 284, page 2. Now, what you could be telling, what I could determine here is maybe this recommendation applies to the newer file, but it doesn't, because the description of the offense narrative obviously includes the B&E at the church. So let's make sure we clarify that. So we're going to change CFJ 284, page 2, recommendation narrative to say something other than the 23 months, and then it will comply or be consistent with the recommendation on the CFJ 145, page 2. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, good. Just want to make sure we got that correct. And by the way, it makes sense, because when I also look at the restitution amount of $200 on the CFJ 145, page 2, that of course is consistent with the language on CFJ 284, page 2. All right. By the way, if it weren't for 24 years in the military, I could not talk in acronyms as well as I do. All right. Got it. Now, Mr. Evil, we're at your phase. Is there anything you wish for me to consider at this time, sir?
So Elmore, I would just like to state that I've just been trying to survive homeless, and it's been hard for me. Right? I didn't intend to originally steal from the church when I went in there. I was just had like a negative thought to go in there, and then something had enticed me to go inside of this church, and the fire doors open. I felt like I would just use the bathroom and get out, right? Just be
Yep.
homeless, right? And then I had seen the money, and I figured that it would help me in my case. And I had sensed that the church was bad in my defense, I don't know what had enticed me to think that the church was bad. I don't know, because there are some churches that are that way and they're not actually like real pastors and stuff.
Pastor Godsey, I know him. He's a very nice man.
So I wasn't sure.
Mhm.
And then I thought that God was gonna help me with my homelessness, because I would be able to get some food, like some hot food, and like, I don't know, clothes or whatever I need or whatever, I don't know. Like use marijuana for my health, for my mental health, and I haven't used controlled substances. I was recovered addict in 2020. I've only relapsed 4 times in between then, and nothing crazy. That was a one-day thing with like friends and stuff, and nothing crazy, nothing weird. Freaking my uncle John, and he was really weird, and I didn't want to do it again. And then I had the last time I done it was in Flint in April, and then my friend, he was having a kid, and we do it, and it was like, you just made us feel stupid, like you can eat your food and stuff. Well, that's besides the point. Like, I just wanted to clear up that I no longer use drugs. I don't want to do those. I just want to be able to get a house and stop being homeless. I'm trying to focus on a family.
Well, you got to get a job first. Your employment history is relatively minimal.
Yes, it's very hard to get a job when you're kicked out of your house at 18 by your own mother because she was going to have a baby with your boyfriend.
Yeah.
Because they kicked me out of the house and said because I used to take weed from them. That was why they kicked me out. They said it because I had got arrested for weed.
How old were you at that time when you were kicked out of the home?
I was 18 when I got kicked out of the house. I got out of jail. I got kicked out of the house for weed. So after 3 days, I said, screw that. After a few days, I got out. Like I think the first day I slept or whatever, you know, around the weed.
I can definitely tell you from the CFJ 284, page 14 comment. Clearly, you were not set up for any degree of success by your parents. Smoking crack, marijuana, heavy drinking.
Yeah, my parents.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't smoke crack.
Okay.
I know my mom has, right? That's what you're saying, right?
Well, that's what it says here. And I know you suffered some other abuses. I'm not going to cover those, but I can read them here on the page. Yeah, and you're what, 26, if I remember?
I'm 28.
28, all right. I'm sorry, sir, I did not mean to stop you from talking. Is there anything else you wish to say, sir?
I come to do my PSI pack and make it to go to court here in Lake City. And I had some food, Chester's chicken, from the gas station over here, right by McDonald's. And freaking, I was over there, I had got the food. I was walking, I don't know Lake City, I'm not from this, like, I don't know Lake City a whole lot. I don't kind of like more than I know most other places, right? And then I tried to find a place to sleep. I don't know where to sleep. How am I supposed to know where to go homeless and sleep? Like it's gonna rain, it's cold outside. I felt like it was gonna, I don't know if it rained that night or not. And I thought it felt like it was gonna rain. It was cloudy out, it felt moisture in the air. So I didn't want to get rained on. So I like found this house that was like said it was for sale. And then I was walked up the back door and like, which I thought was unlocked, which to my some random reason was unlocked, like the church was, which I wasn't even trying to, like, I just went in there to shower, I washed my socks, and then I put them in the dryer, and then I was like, I'm just gonna leave, because like I felt like something else happened, so I was like, trying to get out of there, because like I didn't feel like I was sleeping, I maybe figure out something to like, figure out to like go somewhere else or something, because I was trying to make it here to do my PSI or review it or come to court. And freaking, I don't know where to sleep, right? So then I got picked up for that after they found me. Because I got out of the house. I'm not trying to get arrested because I know that I have a possibility of going to prison because it's another enters without warrant permission and stuff, right?
Have you been, hold on. Have you received any mental health treatment?
Mental health treatment, I know I don't need it. I'm not mentally ill as I have been in the past or whatever.
Well, I mean, it says here on CFJ 284, page 16, that you had some mental health issues, and I don't have any information about treatment, medication, results. They talk about bipolar, schizophrenia, PTSD. I mean, those are significant concerns that I'm concerned that you're getting them treated. Is there any kind of treatment there?
I've gotten treatment. I've been
Okay.
trying to get treatment for my mental disorders
Mhm.
or whatever they try to label mental disorders as. I don't believe in mental disorders around here.
Okay,
Every time I have tried to get help for mental disorders,
Mhm.
the medication doesn't work for me. I bounce around doing different kinds of meds. When I try to get on these medications, they don't help me, and then I feel worse on the medications than I do off the medication.
do you continue, but when you're placed on these medications, who prescribes them? I don't need a name, just like CMH,
Family physicians.
okay? And um, when they're family, where are those family physicians? Are they a private office? Are they at
Yes.
Munson or,
That's past her and Durez.
okay, yep, I know which one you're talking about. Yep. And how do you pay for that treatment?
I have medication
Okay,
or Medicare or whatever.
so these doctors that you see out there, do they, generally, from my experience, they have you come back routinely? Do you go back and talk to them routinely?
I haven't been able to do that,
Okay,
right? Because I was living with my older roommate and he was weird, so then I left, and then I had to try to get help at the homeless shelter, but then those people are weird, so then I left. And then I went to go see my uncle, and then he was weird, so then I left, and then I was homeless again.
all right, all
So
right,
then it was all weird to me. All these people are weird that I'm around, so I don't want to be around weird people,
all right.
right? There was like some weird stuff going on.
There are weird people out there.
Might be some of
Sure.
those people. I was violated by my mom, figured out with my uncle when I saw him the last time. And then freaking whatever else happened to me.
All right,
Stupid stuff.
all right. Anything else, sir?
I just like to say, like, I don't have a lot of job history because homeless, they don't want to hire a homeless person with a backpack because they don't think you're gonna make it to work every day. Every day homeless. So
That's true.
it's really hard, so I never was able to help to keep housing and stuff or anything. I've never owned my own house before. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Or anything like that. So,
All right,
and I'm just trying to figure out like, if I can just get out of here and call NMCAA and I'll be fine, you know what I mean? And then just get my own housing. And then I have so many I've been focusing on, and I'm pretty sure that I could, if I'm able to go see them, I would be able to live with them and get a house and get a job and help them pay for rent and everything or whatever.
okay, all right. Mr. Blazek, I have a couple questions. One moment. I'm going to ask a question, Mr. Blazek, couple questions. And if you choose not to answer one, I think by the rules, it's permissible. Was there a change at one time? Did you recommend prison, but then get it kicked back, or does that cause a change? I figured. All right. Because what I saw on CFJ 284, page 1, when you talked about evaluation and plan, which by the way is where my brain's going, you talk about Department of Corrections and investing a lot of time and resources in developing evidence-based programming. Do you know whether, I'm sorry, let me ask this to Mr. Ebel. Mr. Ebel, have you worked with community mental health? I know you said you didn't see there being issues, but yet you did go to a family practice office.
Family physicians is my doctor,
Okay,
and then
but they don't provide psychological services. They can provide
no,
medical services and prescriptions. Well, they can't sit there and do counseling. Are you going to CMH at all?
When I go into CMH, it's just stressful to try to when they ask me questions, and that stresses me out, and then I feel like I have worse mental health.
Yeah,
When I talk to certain CMH workers,
it's okay.
and then there's some certain like CMH workers I've seen here that do help, but then it doesn't help forever. If you pray, no matter how much you believe in God, no matter how much you pray and everything else, because I had refound God being here. I mean, I believed in God doing larceny in the church. And I felt like
Sure.
the church was unholy. I felt it
Maybe
was
that's why the
taken.
door was opened.
That's
I
what
don't
I'm
know.
saying. Why is the door open if I'm not supposed to be in there to get the money and try to help myself to sustain my life because I'm homeless? So I thought it was a calling from God to help me stop being homeless.
Okay. Mr. Blazak, the other question that I had in the back of my head is now, does he qualify for boot camp? I don't believe he's had any prior prison commitments. Am I correct?
He does, Your Honor.
He does qualify or does have prior prison? Yeah, I think he does too, but I just wanted to hear that. I don't think I saw any prior prison terms. And
If I recall correctly, I believe the prior PSI actually recommended or said.
yeah. Well, let me see here, that I've scanned this while we've all been talking and I've been listening to everybody, and it doesn't say whether or not he is or is not eligible. It looks like to me he's eligible.
There's been some discussion here about mental health
Yeah,
and there's reference to some qualifications there.
yeah, then that's important while I'm asking, because again, I don't see it referenced. I don't see any prison commitments. I'm wondering if there's anything else. He has had some mental health issues, but he hasn't had, I can't tell if he had a diagnosis. I can't tell what, although he probably did to get the medication.
His eligibility for SAI in that department would depend on probably an MDOC screening to determine.
All right. All right. The court begins its analysis here in the case. We have a young man who's 28 years of age who, on one side of the scale, one of the things to consider here is his upbringing, which is, and I don't mean to be rude because I'm not being rude to Mr. Evil. If anything, I'm being rude to somebody else. Your child was atrocious. You didn't have any good examples. You had nothing. You had people that barely took care of you, and I know you're starting to become tearful. I'm gonna have to look away because I'm gonna start crying. But Mr. Evil, people care, and it's obvious people like Pastor Godsey care. Again, I know him personally, and I think he's there, and other people like that at other churches are there to help people. But again, you've had some really tough upbringing. So the challenge for a judge is when I hear about somebody's difficulty in upbringing is, well, one side is to say, feel bad, therefore don't do anything. Don't give them a sentence, or don't give them any jail, or don't give them rehab, or just let him go and wait till he pops back up again and hope he'll figure it out on his own. Well, that argument to me is irresponsible. Another thing that's challenging to me is I see this all the time. I cringe when I read or hear a news report about our problems with mental health in the state of Michigan and people who are running for office who talk about it, but then I don't see a lot of money flowing into Wexford or Missaukee County that's there to help people. Right? They're doing everything they can to keep people out of prison and put them in local counties, but they don't provide to us a lot of program. Now, I kind of get a little bit of a sense of that in this PSI. after I figured out this conflict that Mr. Champion raised, and I went to look into it more thoroughly, and I highlighted those issues, is that sometime Mr. Blazak, who I know and I see several times a week, he knows the problems in our county. Lansing doesn't. And Lansing probably kicked back this report where he made a very reasonable argument or suggestion. He was spot on. And that is the Department of Corrections is really about the only place where a lot of the programming and things that you need are available. Somebody down there kicked it back. That's okay. Everybody's doing their own job. And I don't criticize them for doing their own job, but I'm highlighting that this is my job now. This throughout your entire case, from the moment the offense occurred, you got arrested, you got arraignments, and you got pleas. Everything else is really just the court, the system applying the program, the due process. Now we're at the part where the judge gets to exercise discretion. It's about really the only time I have really any authority over your file. So again, we've talked a little bit about the terrible upbringing, and we have seen the result of that. 28 years of age, and you have 24 criminal entries. Some of them are just have been dismissed, and I'm going to talk about that. But it also started out as a juvenile back in 2012. You got 6 months of probation, but there must have been some extensions because it didn't resolve into 2000. Oh wait, no, take that back. 6 months of probation, but there was at least one probation violation. 2013, you started picking up your adult criminal history. Started off with marijuana. You got 7411, and that was dismissed. That was a success for you. However, 4 months later, you pick up an MDOP in 2014, which got resolved on June 18th. And you got some jail. It was 2 months later where you picked up the next case with an MIP. There you had probation and you were unsuccessfully discharged because looks like you had, while on probation, another conviction for retail fraud. That one was resolved in March of 2015, and you made it barely 6 weeks before you picked up your next case. That was an arson case. And the system gave you just fines and costs. In May of 2015, while on bond for the other case, you picked up another MDOP. So that you had 2 cases overlapping. Then you picked up a third case overlapping, where you picked up, I think, your 3rd or 4th MDOP. You got placed up on probation finally, but you absconded from probation and you were terminated unsuccessfully. You had a 4th case back then of a larceny charge, and you were placed upon probation, and that was terminated unsuccessfully back in November 20th of 2018. That's when you picked up another charge. And we don't know the result of this one. This one apparently was out in California. Did you spend some time in California?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, all right. So you picked up a series of cases while on probation. I don't really know the result of them. However, we can skip ahead. 12 of 13. No, by that one was dismissed. I'm sorry. It's 13 of 23. That was on probation. You were given 6 months of probation, discharged in April of 2018, and you made it 3 months before picking up another charge. This time you went from South Carolina to Oregon. You made it about 14 months before you picked up another charge while on probation out in Oregon. You were discharged from that case. Oh, I'm sorry, you were still on probation, but after your conviction in that case and sentence, you made it 1 month before you picked up another charge, this time in California. That charge was, that case was completed and closed in 2021, but that was after you had already been picked up on another charge while on probation, and you had probation violations. You made it 5 months before you picked up another case, but I can't tell what there is. Well, I can see that there was a probation violation allegation. And it just continues. You have short gaps of time between your convictions and arrests. You're also on bond, you're also on probation repetitively, you're rarely off of paper. And again, that tells me why Mr. Blazak was probably compelled. He recommended prison, they kicked it back, but he doesn't want to do probation because his recommendation was no probation. I don't blame him because you are unsupervisable. But if I keep you in county jail, you're going to get out real fast and you're not going to get any of the treatment and the programming that you need. By the way, not to blame the jail or the sheriff's department. Again, it's the ability for funding. By the way, if anybody ever talks about why do people get out of jail, why do they don't go to prison, how can they get out let so early? If anybody is paying attention, feel free to contact your legislators or your local people, or just ask them to increase your taxes. So here's what I'm going to do. This court is going to do the best it can to actually help you, Mr. Evil. Whatever has been happening or what has ever been provided to you is not working. You're 28 years old and you have 24 criminal history entries. Yes, a couple of them have been dismissed, but a lot of them occurred while on bond, occurred while on probation. Fines and costs haven't worked, jail hasn't worked, probation hasn't worked, going to CMH or treatment hasn't worked. I agree with Mr. Blazak's original comments that the Michigan Department of Corrections has great programming. They will help you get your GED. They will help you get treatment. They will help give you job training. That's what they do. That's what they have. That's what's available to you and available to the court. The court therefore sentences the defendant to a $68 state minimum fee, $130 crime victims' right fund fee. I'm only going to charge you a $100 court cost because I want any restitution to go back to that church. I'm only going to charge you a $100 fine and a $100 attorney fee. Typically, those amounts are triple. And I'm going to order a $200 restitution to the Faith Baptist Church. Do we have a DNA fee here, Mr.?
You're right. I checked a minute ago. I believe that that was already available.
It looks like it could have been available, but all right. So we don't have any DNA fee. Now the court looks here at the guideline range. I don't have to establish reasonable grounds, but I do refer to all those things I just stated covered for proportionality and reasonableness in this sentence. This amount is relatively low, but you're going to have to listen here to make sure you pay attention. I think Mr. Champion knows probably where I'm going. The sentence in this case is a prison term of 18 to 60 months with the credit of 72 days. The court finds that you are SAI boot camp eligible, at least for today's purposes. If the Department of Corrections screens you and finds you eligible, if you apply, I'll get a note in the mail from the Department of Corrections, and I will approve boot camp, which means if I do that, you could get out quicker than if I were to put you in the jail.
Right.
Okay? If you file, what I'm trying to do for you, Mr. Evil, you may not appreciate it, is I'm trying to change what everyone has done and actually give you a whole new start. We're going to pull you out of here. We're going to put you in. Yes, I know it's a prison, but they have programming that we just can't afford and have available here. They're going to help you get, they can help you get a GED so you have a diploma, right? They can help you with housing and transitioning. They can help you get some skills. And if they find you eligible for boot camp, I'm going to approve it and you can get it, you're gonna get out earlier than the sentence that I just issued. Mr. Ebel, you are in charge of your life. I know everything that's happened to you has been difficult. It's your turn now, not mom and dad's responsibility. It's your turn to work with people who care. Okay? Go to churches. Show up on Sundays. That's not part of your sentence, by the way. Find people that care, because I guarantee there are a lot of people in Western Missaukee County who care and will help you. Have I missed anything, Mr. Blazak? Mr. Denhousen? Thank you, Mr. Champion. Thank you. Mr. Ebel, Mr. Champion is bringing to you 2 copies of 1 document. This document tells you that you have the right to appeal the conviction and sentence in your case. That is typically done by filing a claim of right to appeal. However, based upon the plea in this case, any appeal must be done by filing an application for leave to appeal. If you choose to file an application for leave to appeal and you want the court to consider appointing an attorney to assist you, you complete the bottom half of the document and return to the court within 42 days. If you choose not to appeal, you may simply dispose of your copy of the document. Now, Mr. Ebel, one last time. There are people who care. I care. I guarantee you the prosecutor and Mr. Blazak care, and I guarantee you Mr. Champion does. Use the resources that are available. It is up to you. You're 28 years of age. I can barely remember being 20. I can, because that's when I had my first kid, but never mind. Good luck to you, Mr. Ebel.
Thank you.
Thank
Can I
you.
do boot camp?
Yeah, that's what
If you apply and they approve you, I will approve you for boot camp. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We are adjourned.